Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Joey and this is part 2 of my Pirogue build. If you don't know, my dad and I are building a 14-foot wooden Pirogue, and the part 1 of this video, if you missed it, it'll be linked down below. Go ahead and check that one out. Got the sides and all together, and now we're working on the bottom, so y'all stay tuned for part 2. Just like we scarfed together the plywood to make the sides of the boat, we are doing the same thing with this piece of 3/8 inch plywood to make the bottom. So here we're cutting the scarves and we're gonna get them glued together before we cut it out and make the bottom of the boat.
Maybe tomorrow we can come nail it on. Maybe.
So here we have 2 sheets of plywood that are 2 foot wide and 8 foot long, and I'm gluing them together so that they will equal 16 foot long. We pretty much use the same gluing process throughout the whole build. We wet the surfaces with the epoxy resin and the hardener, and then we coat one side with a thickened glue. And here I am spreading out the thickened epoxy. So once we got them glued up, we're going to line them up. We got to put some plastic down so we don't glue the sheets to the floor. He's going to spread some more glue out on top, and then we have to get these pushed down as tight as we can. We're using these beams and a jack on the ceiling so that we apply a lot of pressure to this spot. And now we just got to wait overnight for that glue to dry.
So this goes down.
And now we're going to lay the bottom piece on top of the boat so that we can outline the shape of the boat and know where we need to cut.
So we got clamps in the way. Still covering everything over there?
Now I'm just using a pencil and going around the whole boat and marking out the bottom. Here's the outline. And now it's time to get cutting with the handsaw. Now y'all, I am not very skilled with the handsaw. This is the only time that I've ever used it is on this project. So I am very, very slow and not quite accurate with the handsaw, but luckily my dad helped me out a bit and he was able to clean up any really bad mistakes that I made with it. But overall, it wasn't a bad job. So now we got the bottom all cut out. It's time to start gluing and stapling.
Flip this over, glue the outside of it. You know, you gotta come in like that far everywhere, all the way around.
All the way around, glue it.
And a little bit more right here. Then we're gonna lift this and move it out of the way. You're gonna glue all of this. Then you're gonna put glue on here all the way around, and then you're gonna mix thickened epoxy and put thickened epoxy all the way around, and a lot of it right here.
All the way down?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. 1. So there I mixed equal parts of the epoxy resin and the extra slow hardener, mixed it up, and now, as he told me, I'm applying glue to the bottom of the boat, then to the sides of the boat and the chines. Then we're going to flip it over and get it glued and stapled on. I'm now adding in the epoxy filler, and it will become more of a paste.
All right, now mix that.
And I'm applying the thickened epoxy to the sides and the chine of the boat only. So we carefully transferred the bottom piece to the boat, lined it up, and now I'm going to start stapling the bottom and making sure I'm punching the nails through the chines of the boat. And my dad is hammering in any nails that didn't get punched in all the way. God! My wrist.
There you go. You gotta come in and smooth all this out so you don't have to deal with that later. Get it in there good, in the corner.
So now that we have the bottom all stapled on, we flipped it over and I'm just smoothing out the glue, making sure the cracks are getting filled and that there's no big drips around the chine. Here it is. Now it looks like a boat. It's a new day and the epoxy has dried. Now we need to knock off some of this plywood so that the bottom of the boat is flush with the sides of the boat. We're showing you how you can use these hand planers to do that to smooth it out.
Both plane one little angle too when you cut.
Okay. To make it easier on us, my dad finished the rest of the job with this sander. Here we have some cypress boards that we're running through the planer. We're going to make the seats out of these. With the seats cut, I'm going to use this tool to match up the angle of the sides of the boat with the seat so that we'll know what angle to cut the ends at on the table saw. We also need this angle to make the 4 blocks that the seats will rest on. This piece of wood here will be used to make the 4 blocks. We're making these 4 blocks. These are going to be used to hold the seats in place. Right now I'm marking where they need to go so that I'll know where to apply the glue. Since we're going to be gluing these 4 blocks, we're also going to knock out 2 other parts. We're going to make 2 more blocks, just like the other blocks we made for the bow and the stern that are holding the sides together. We're going to make another set of blocks that are going to go on the ends of the boat.
Yeah.
And now I'm drilling 2 holes in each of the inside blocks so that we can screw in new blocks the outside of the boat. So now I'm applying epoxy to each end, the bow and the stern, where the outer blocks will go, and where the seat blocks will go in the 4 spots that I marked out earlier. And now I'll be applying epoxy to the blocks themselves. We're going to use 2 screws to insert each of the outer blocks to the boat.
Yep. Sides again like I had over there.
Now that those pieces are installed, it's time to glue and staple in the seat blocks.
Keep holding it tight. No, it can't get your fingers if that's what you want, right? Alright.
Just installed the blocks where the seats will rest. Next we'll make the seats, and we added front blocks on each end of the boat. That's all been glued up and has to dry overnight. So now we're cutting the seat boards at the ends at the same angle of the sides of the boat. And once we get both seats made, we're gonna screw them into those blocks that we had glued onto the sides.
That's it. Keep your bit right here on that same angle.
Okay. And go in?
Mm-hmm. Alright, that's good.
And it's the same gluing process as always, guys. We're going to use that thickened epoxy, flip these seats over, and get them screwed into those blocks.
Look at that. Oh no, hold up now.
Does that look like the proper angle?
Alright, that's one. Alright, we'll do this side. This is no longer needed.
And again, I'm making sure to smooth that glue out in those cracks. Now these next pieces, I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but they're going to be triangle shaped pieces. They're going to go in the bow and the stern, and we're going to drill a hole in the middle. So they'll kind of be like handles for the boat, but also a place to tie up the rope. I'm going to mark out a curved design on the end of this piece. So first I need a few measurements, such as marking out the center line. Now I'm making a 1.5 inch mark away from the end on that center line.
Right there, one before the half.
One before the half. I'm going to be using a curved object to mark this design. I'm going to be using that paint can y'all see in the background. Okay.
then you can put this on here and put it flush here and flush on that line, and then you just mark this swoop. You see what I'm saying? Not the here.
Mm-hmm. Then I just trace the first design onto the second piece and get back to the bandsaw. And now my dad is going to route the edges of these two pieces, and it's going to really make it look nice. Now I'm going to use the drill press here to drill out a hole in each of these pieces, and we'll be able to tie a rope to the ends of the boat. And here I'm just marking a line where I need to put the glue for these two pieces that we just made, and we're going to get them installed in the boat.
I think it's good, huh?
Yeah. So first I'm applying the epoxy resin and the hardener mixture. And we use this mixture, and then what's left in the cup, we add the thickener to it and make that thickened epoxy. Epoxy is really expensive and you don't want it to go to waste, so we use little bits at a time just as we need. Think that was good?
Looks like you got it.
So the next part of the boat are the gunnels. So here we are cutting the strip of Spanish cedar. We're going to make the gunnels of the boat. With the 2 gunnels cut, we're going to route 3 of the 4 sides of this strip of wood. Routing these gunnels is going to give them a really nice finish, and it's going to look great when installed on the boat. After routing 3 of the 4 sides on each of these strips, my dad's going to have to make a cutout where it's going to fit onto the side of the boat.
Come close. Make yours.
Looks good. So now that we got the gunnels made, we're going to need to make 2 more pieces. These are going to be called the outside chines. That's what we'll call them. They're a strip of wood that's going to run along the bottom outside edges of the boat. We've got the top pieces clamped on, but we decided it's going to be easier to attach the bottom pieces, so now we have to put glue on everything and staple the bottom pieces. Then we'll flip it back over and glue the top pieces. So with the gunnels clamped on and the boat turned upside down, I decide to start gluing where we're going to need to put the outside chines. We're going to get those glued on and stapled on, flip it back over, and once that's dried, we're going to go ahead and glue on and staple the gunnels. So I got the glue on the boat where it needs to be. Now I'm going to put the glue on those strips of Spanish cedar and we'll get them stapled on. We have a center line marked on the boat and a center line marked on these pieces of Spanish cedar. What we're going to try to do is be careful, not touch the glue while lining up those lines, and I'm going to shoot a staple right in the middle. We're making sure to line that staple gun so that these nails are being shot into those chines that are on the inside of the boat. We're going to repeat the process for the other outer chine, and then as you can see, my dad's cutting off the ends so that they are now the same length as the boat. He's also checking all the nails and tapping those that are still sticking out a little bit because sometimes the gun just didn't shoot them in all the way. Now that the outer chines are glued on, we got the boat flipped back over and we're going to start installing the gunnels. We really had to work together to get these gunnels on, and these are actually going to be stapled from the inside of the boat. And just like the chines, it's going to take pretty much all the C-clamps and spring clamps that we've got to hold it along that curve of that boat. I'm shooting the staples about every 4 inches. And as usual, repeat the same thing on the other side. And here is the boat with all the blocks, seats, chines, gunnels, pretty much every part installed. It's looking good, and we're going to have to leave it overnight to dry. Well, we're back after gluing on the top and bottom pieces. And time to take these clamps off. But technically the boat is built. All the parts that need to be on the boat are on the boat. We got the seats. And now we're just gonna have to do a lot of cleanup. And it's not perfect. We're gonna have to do a lot of touch-ups with epoxy and all, but for starters, I gotta take these clamps off and punch in some of these nails. As you can see, some of them are sticking out. So I'm gonna use this hammer and tool to punch in all those nails below the wood surface. Then I have to cover every nail hole that's exposed with epoxy. Let that dry. Then I can begin the long process of sanding all of the glue. So today's step, taking off all these clamps and punching nails. Let's get to it. And look who's here to help me. What you came here to do?
A router. I just used it the day before. I picked it up on the armature, all broke a piece, broke up. So it's no more good. It's only probably only 40 years old. There we go. Okay.
After we punched all the nails in, we're going to make a thickened epoxy. So 1 part epoxy resin, and 1 part of extra slow hardener. Mix it up and do a little bit at a time. Here we're putting in the filler, and we're wanting like a mayonnaise consistency.
Yeah, we'll have to put the 2 of them. Just add some more, and then we'll take some, put some in the other cup.
How's that?
That's good.
Take a bit of that and go grab it onto the nails, well, the nail holes, with a little bit protruding because you want to have enough to sand to make it flush and flat. So we're also going to fill in any kind of cracks we see, such as between the gunnels and the sides of the boat. Basically try to fill in anything we possibly can. Then we flipped the boat over and did the same thing on the bottom. We got all the nail holes puttied up. We're gonna let it dry and then come back and sand them off. So that is gonna be it for part 2 of the Pirogue build. We did it. We built a 14-foot Pirogue. And now it's not finished yet. As y'all know, we have to do a lot of cleanup, final touches, and get this baby painted. Comment down below any questions y'all have on the building process, and let me know what kind of paint job y'all think I should go with. As for part 3 of this series, I'm going to do the final touches, the final puttying and sanding, painting of this boat, and we're going to build our own wooden paddle so that we can paddle this boat around in the swamps and bayous of South Louisiana. So guys, give me a thumbs up if you're liking this boat building series, and please hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, because once this boat is finished, I'm going to show y'all everything I'm able to do in it. Hopefully we'll be able to catch some blue crabs, some fish, and do some duck hunting out of this homemade wooden boat that my dad and I built. So see y'all in the next video right here, Cajun Girl Outdoors.